Hello, everybody, and welcome back to that Milan podcast. Martino Puccio, Matt Santangelo, alongside you guys. Santangelo is back. Again, guys, if you haven't checked out last week's episode with Uncle Sharma, be sure to go and check that one out. We covered a bevy of topics, including Inter, and then obviously Milan with the sale of Chow and all that. So be sure to check all of that out. Again, the support has been tremendous all summer. The season has obviously started. And with that, we have Matt back. We're going to take a whole episode to talk about some of the transfers that have happened, the obvious match that took place on Sunday for Coppa Italia, and then the preview of the first match of the season in Serie A, which I'm a little bit more happy after what I've been reading and seeing today, which we'll get into. But then we'll also do just the full season preview for everybody, in case you're wondering that, once the transfer window closes, or at least after the Cremonese match, because it seems like there's a lot more activity. And personally speaking, I don't know about you, Matt, that kind of impacts where I view Milan finishing this season, because there could be some significant moves that could impact a lot of things. So, anything quickly before you want to do that? Obviously, you are a big Instagram guy now.
Yeah, go follow me there. I haven't really posted too much. I just kind of been waiting for some clips to come out. Of course, I've been trying to create off air, on my own, like Martino does. He's been doing a great job with our podcast account, so make sure you guys go follow that. I think we're around 400 followers there, so we're growing. We're maybe we're not Marco. Shout out to Marco. Marco does a great job. I know as far as his following is concerned, but we're trying to chase him down. So let's get going with the podcast.
1,500 followers almost on TikTok as well, so big ups there. So Milan beat Bari in the first match of the season in Coppa Italia. Our Mad Max, our leader, was suspended for this one because of one of the all-time outbursts in his Coppa Italia victory with Juventus over Atalanta not too long ago. But yeah, I mean, this performance was certainly interesting. Obviously, Santi Jimenez was not ready to go. They didn't start Noah Okafor up front because of what we saw happen today. He didn't end up playing, but that's besides the point. We saw Rafa more centrally. That pretty much worked out almost immediately. Milan were creating chances. It's kind of hard to go off and complain about the total score line because people are just like, oh, it should have been 5. Yeah, maybe, but their best player got hurt within the first 15 minutes. I thought that this lineup was fine, given where some of the recent signings and players like Santi Jimenez arrived late into the window. There's no reason to push them in a match against Bari, where Milan had more than enough players and talent to finish this one off. And I think the scoreline was fine. And funnier to a lot of games last season, Matt, did you get the vibes of not really feeling uneasy with chances being conceded? It really felt like Milan were in control from minute 1 to the 90th.
Yeah, I think obviously, you have to weigh, the difficulty of the opposition, and no disrespect to Bari, but this isn't a team that I think that Milan should have trouble with. Even last year, right? Even last year's Milan probably would have done the job, although again, maybe would have made it more difficult than this version. But having said that, I thought that, look, it's nice for, Pulisic, it's nice for Rafa to get goals and to start to open their account. When the ball hits the back of the net, especially for attacking players, that's important. And I don't care if it comes in a preseason game, if it comes in a Coppa Italia game, especially with this Coppa Italia game being so close to the season opener. That's what you want to see, right? You want to see guys feeling that mojo, getting into that good rhythm and confidence. And I think that's what we saw. I think defensively, though, that was a big takeaway for me, because I thought that Estupiñán was good. I thought the defense was pretty solid, sound. Nothing too crazy. No one was really, in my opinion, like absolutely wowed me, because again, I think that, they didn't really have to face too much trouble. I know very early on, I think that Mike Manuel made a great save, but generally speaking, there really wasn't too many tests coming their way. But it's just nice to see that, as a group, this group feels more organized under Max Allegri. You feel as though that a lot of the things that, you look to implement in preseason and some of those games are starting to carry over into more meaningful games, and we're starting to translate into good results like this one. So those are my main takeaways. I thought also to the midfield, right? I thought, Modric came on, got that nice ovation, his San Siro debut. Same thing with Ardi Nashari, who probably was overshadowed, to say the least, by the fact that Modric is such a revered figure around not just Milan, but the world of football. But top to bottom, not really many complaints. I mean, I think that there were players that stood out more than others, but again, 2-0, you move on in the Coppa Italia phase. And I think it's a nice little tune-up and something more elevated as far as what you would maybe expect on a given match day heading into the season versus those preseason games where, again, makeshift rotation, makeshift lineup, the opposition's, trying, but not so much. So I think that was a good kind of temperature of what maybe this Milan will look like under Max going forward.
Yeah, I just think the solidity of it all. Just the midfield was interesting to see Ricci really just control a lot of the tempo. He's so Jorginho-esque, man. Like almost
Yeah.
every single time you just
Everything
watch
looks
him.
simple in nature, but I think the not to interject too much,
You're
but I
fine.
think that the way he plays is, I think people will grow to appreciate it a lot more because of a lot of the issues that we endured last year, where something as simple as, Musa getting the ball deep and not really knowing what to do with the next pass and causing it a turnover in possession, and that leading to a dangerous chance for the other team. Like I think Ricci and some of the players that we have, more so than maybe what we saw in this game as anything technical or physical, just kind of the understanding and intelligence and making the smart decision with the ball, which I thought was going to be something that, Max Allegri instilled into the group, because I think that, again, a lot of the issues that Milan faced last year, whether it be defensively or midfield, were self-inflicted. So if they're able to kind of iron those things out, I think you're going to see a little bit more polished performances.
Yeah, again with Ricci, he just reminds me so much of a traditional point guard in basketball that controls the tempo of the
Yeah.
game. He doesn't really, speed things up or make
Like a Rajon
unnecessary.
Rondo type.
Yeah, just unnecessary forced passes. And again, so many people were critical of him for his second half with Torino last year. And this is the funniest thing about when players like him who are talented and they make moves like this, it's that they're playing around much better players. Like this is just a known thing. You're going to be a better player when you're around guys like that. And I thought Loftus-Cheek put in a good shift, and just to really just stay on the midfield for a moment here. Loftus-Cheek, frustrating, should have obviously dumped it off to Santi Jimenez, but the qualities are still there with him. I think when other players are surrounding him like that, with like Salamakers working hard off the ball, and all RLC has to really do is just be physical and move forward, I think that benefits for him. I loved Fofana moving up the pitch. When he's looking for his teammates, that's the best version of him. When he's really just trying to attempt a lot of shots, some of the shots were good. I was
Yeah.
okay with them. Other ones, you were like, brother, you got to
He
stop.
fell in love with the shot way too much. Yeah.
I think he like hooked one or two. It was kind of frustrating, but I thought the way he started the match was really strong. I think he's still going to be adjusting to that. And hell, man, I mean, if two of those guys are going to be bench options a good amount of the time, or coming off the bench, if he Shadi and Modric will be starting over those two, it's a really nice problem for Milan to have. Santi and Pulisic's link-up play. Against Santi, I just want to give Santi so many flowers for this. I thought overall he had a really sound match for him, because he's doing everything that you want and the type of striker that he is. He's making the proper runs. His teammates are the ones that have to find him. He scored that offside goal. Maybe should have been a little bit more patient. And then again, the link-up play with Pulisic was fantastic. I really just enjoyed watching the two of them play off of each
He
other.
also tracked back a lot to defend. Like I think he played
Go
this
for it.
game with a little bit of something to prove, right? I think that, this whole conversation surrounding, Max Allegri looking for another striker, maybe two, and it hasn't gone away, right? So the fact that Santi's come back into the fold a couple weeks ago after, obviously the extended vacation, similar to Pulisic, and the fact that he's able to come into a game like this, he knows he's going to start. He knows he's going to get that opportunity to showcase a little bit more and say, hey, like I'm actually a player that you can rely on this year, because I think the jury was still out on whether or not Allegri can trust him or likes his profile enough, which is again lending a lot of credence to what the reports are saying about Milan's pursuit for strikers, and plural, two strikers, right? So what does that say about Santi, right? So in a game like this, for him to come in, link up play, you mentioned get the assist, but also he was behind the ball several times, like looking to defend, like clearing the lines, like putting the ball out for a corner versus giving a dangerous chance away. So those are some of the things I look at, especially with Santi. And I think that, again, I think people need to be a little bit more fair with him, because I think he came into such a difficult situation. Expensive price tag, yes, but also that January market turned out to be a disaster. And you really asked a lot for a player to all of a sudden come in, start scoring goals in a difficult league, in an unstable environment with really very few ideas, And he did a decent job of getting goals and assists, right? I don't know what his numbers were, 4 goals, 2 assists in X amount of minutes.
I think that you're talking about the Serie A numbers.
Yeah,
Correct?
yeah. So like
He had a couple like in
the
total.
point being is I think that Milan could be at a point of luxury where, if they get in another striker or two, you got a lot of options and you have a lot of varying profiles and you have a lot of options that I think can give you some different looks. So that's what I kind of saw from Santi in this game.
I thought Santi's been plenty fine since he's arrived.
Yeah,
I think he's
same.
really getting harsh criticism for what he's doing. I also don't buy into those rumors that only like happened once at the start of the window. Then they disappeared. Everybody like jumping the gun and saying like, "Oh, they're willing to sell him. They're willing." No, they're not. Look at the links and how they're approaching all these other strikers. Like it doesn't make sense. Like we'll talk about Victor Boniface in a moment. Just even the stuff with Hoyland and those links, those are loans with options to buy, potentially obligations. It's really just Camarda, the one that's going to be coming back next year. I think it's all puff and BS and just stuff made up by the papers based off of assumptions just because a new director and a new manager are in here that they don't like the past striker. Like he does everything that you want a striker to do, which gets me so annoyed when discussing him because not everybody has to be a complete player in the modern era. Sometimes you just have to be good at your job and what your position requires of you. And for Santi, that means scoring goals and helping his teammates link up. Everything else to me is just a bonus because he's always in a position to succeed. So with that, moving on, another forward that ended up leaving Milan at this point in time is Noah Okafor. Kind of an underwhelming stay for him. We were kind of relatively excited for him when he arrived from RB Leipzig. We knew the talent that he was. And to be honest with you, I enjoyed the talent that he ultimately was, but he never put it all together. There were some weight issues in the second season. He's always had injuries, even back to his days in Leipzig. Never really got consistent playing time. Never really. Salzburg, sorry.
Yeah,
Red Bull,
RB,
right?
yeah. I made that mistake too.
Yeah, there you go. So yeah, Salzburg, and you got to love how he joins Leeds where they have the Red Bull sponsor now on their kit. It just love football. So for me, I think Noah Okafor never solidified himself as a left winger that could start over Leao. We all knew that was never really going to happen. He's not a true prima punta number 9. I think Allegri liked him, but the reality is this. With Milan and Okafor in his situation, like some of the other players that they have sold, he stays on another year, he struggles, this or that. They're not going to get a good fee for him. There's a profit here, and our good friends at Sempre Milan were talking about how it's basically a capital gains of 11 million, which is really solid business by Tare, who has done a phenomenal job of offloading some of this, extra fat, dead weight, if you will, within the squad that doesn't really have a future to begin with. And maybe Allegri could have liked to keep Okafor long term, but the reality was this. He had no reality of staying here. And I guess getting this fee around 21 million euro, Matt, I think this is good for Milan. They can move on to other targets or potentially use these funds for another position.
The reality is Noah Okafor didn't really have a future here. And, you look at what he does well. He can be technical in that short field, that small space, but he's not a player that, again, if you're looking at what maybe Max Allegri is going to do as far as his formation, he's a second striker probably, right? And if you're still trying to go through your options and explore the market for guys that can give you more goals and more assurances in that department, Okafor is not the guy. He's also not, in my opinion, someone that you can rely on to be an out-and-out true left winger.
Correct.
So when you look at the way this is sort of shaping up, if Milan are going with a 3-5-2 or a 3-4-3 or whatever the case may be,
right,
you find it very difficult to find room and minutes for him with one competition. For that reason, I think it's pretty clear that this was the right decision for him. And I also think it was a good decision for Milan because I think that, you can look at moves like this and say, well, we really didn't get the most of them. I almost like to credit ownership too, not ownership before I say that, management and Tade specifically for kind of having an understanding of like, this guy doesn't work, this guy doesn't work, this guy doesn't work, we got to move on. Right? Because there's things that you can like. Maybe you like a little bit of this, what he does, or this player does.
He's got a little bit of Galliani to him, right? Because of when he's like, oh no, we like this player, we like that player, they're gone. And then also with what he was saying with the Giroud stuff, guys, every single player that they've been linked to since he said that is the opposite of Giroud.
Yeah.
Like they
There's
do
like a
not play like
mystery
him.
with some of the things. Like I'm waiting for him to pull out the famous Mr. X. Who's Mr. X, right?
I mean, hey, it could be what we're
Who
talking about
knows?
next.
I don't
But
even
overall,
yeah.
I don't and the numbers that people always look at for Okafor, by the way, like, oh, he scored X amount of goals. If we remember, they were really last second tap-ins, goals that were like
Mostly
saving
off the bench.
goals.
So you're basically saying
Yeah.
that we got 20 million plus for a super sub at best,
For only played really one season, I
right?
believe.
Like even in his first season where there were a couple moments where he did get starts, right? Because
Yeah.
maybe Rafa was injured or we
Yeah.
had some
Rotation.
some inconsistencies, right? He didn't really produce many goals from a starting standpoint. So again, at best, Milan made it, to your point, an 11 million in capital gain profit on a player that would be at best a backup. At best a backup.
Yeah.
So I mean, I wish him all the best. I hope he does really well at Leeds. I mean, I think it's a big challenge for him. The fact that he's able to get a Premier League move is good for him. I think he needs that big step up as well, because I think again, at his age, he could have said, yeah, you know, I'm going to hide in the shadows. I don't want the big pressure. He's like, I'm going to play for Leeds. I want to play in the Premier League. So this is a big challenge for him, and I think that time will tell, right? If he hits the ground running and Leeds gets a producing forward, that 20 million is going to look like nothing because it's a Premier League team, right? They have more revenues and money than anyone else.
Yeah.
But if he struggles and he's 3 goals, 1 assist in 35 appearances, people are going to be like, man, Tare masterclass here, because 20 million for a player that again had really no future here is looking like a great bit of business.
Exactly, and those are mostly those sales.
Yeah.
And they're never. He hasn't sold anybody or got rid of anybody that was here that had a future that was like a real key piece, right? Like Reinders, Teo, they were all issues prior to that we had covered and mentioned on the podcast. So they're
Malik
not
Chow
really.
was even on.
Yeah,
I
Chow
didn't
was
get, I didn't
always
get
on
a
the fringe.
true chance to kind of like wrap up on Chow, but just real quickly on Chow,
Oh
because
yeah,
I
yeah,
saw
yeah.
your
Go
episode
for it.
with Sharma. Again, guys, go check that out. Same thing. Like
Yeah.
again, I don't you can have your issues with ownership and how things have gone the past couple of years. That's all fine and well. But I just find it how interesting it's become where people will look at this and say, yeah, but you know, 40 million for Chow, like we should have kept him because he had potential. Knowing damn well, if he had a down year and we got a 20 million bid for him next year, people would have said, you should have sold him. So I think the money in that aspect was just simply too good to pass up. 60 million for Okafor, for Malik Chow, and if you want to put them all together, if you believe reports, Musa, 85 million for those 3 players. That's not bad.
To me, it's so silly to. Like, dude, like Chow, you go watch last episode.
Yeah, go watch it.
This one, I am fairly stunned. So where we are at this point with the Boniface saga is that Milan Leverkusen have an agreement on a loan with option to buy for 30 million euro. Phenomenal figure, and for the upside of it. For the most part, personal terms are agreed. It's just dealing with his entourage. Matteo Moretto has basically said this is a very advanced negotiation that could be finished at any time, but it's just, the two parties coming to that agreement. But as far as things go, Milan and Leverkusen, which is usually the tougher one, have come to the agreement with 2 clubs. And man, the upside with this, I never thought this would happen because I wouldn't think Milan could have gotten a price that was within their range. I thought it would have been at least 40 million and up with an obligation or just a permanent transfer. The flexibility within this deal, the value within this deal is the best piece of business this summer outside of the termination of Divock Origi. I can't, and I know I snuck that in. I cannot stand like haggling and going around for like the names like Embolo. No disrespect to him, fine international player. Okay, so what? Hoyland, I wouldn't have necessarily hated, depending on the formula and the price. This, I have no issue. I can't even like poke a hole into something within this deal. To me, I think it's phenomenal. You're probably not going to be paying too high of a salary for this type of player. We know the level of production. This was a player, a part of one of the most unique and dominant stories that we have ever seen in this sport, and especially within the past 10 to 15 years in Leverkusen's undefeated run that was really only stopped by Atalanta. Boniface, at just 24 years of age, has so much potential, so much upside. And we've seen that production already, right? You were talking about his statistics today on Twitter. And truthfully, yeah, there's question marks about his health and injuries. But we could say the same for Noah Okafor. We could probably say the same for some of the other players. No matter who Milan would have purchased with their finances, with their situation, there was going to be question marks with players. But I'd rather a more guaranteed product like Victor, a champion like Victor, and somebody that doesn't cost as much like Victor. This to me has the potential to be supersonic. Like to play off of Santi Jimenez, the versatility in which he brings, his technical ability, he can pass, he could score. Like he's going to be cheaper than Dusan Vlahovic, more productive than him too, and all around a better player. Like to me, even if they do buy him, right? Because some of the questions of concerns next year regarding Camarda and what he brings and what's going to happen there, they just play once a week, guys. Two forwards like this, Pulisic on the side, Leao on the side, Chukwueze, Salamakers. That's plenty of depth for once a week. And hell, if they need to make a change, maybe they do something in January. But the risk is the big word that's being tossed around. What is the risk in an option to buy for a player like this for 30?
Well, we don't know. The thing is that even regardless of what the initial loan fee is, right? Because what we were seeing for Højlund was like 5 to 6 million, which is a pretty heavy loan. And I think that was similar a bit to what, again, correct me if I'm wrong on this, that Milan were paying for Tammy Abraham's loan, unless that was a free.
Tammy and Salamakers were just straight loan swaps.
It was the wages. The wages were like 6 million.
Yes, correct. They covered
or 5 million, whatever it was. But the numbers being thrown around for Højlund were about 5 to 6 million on a loan. So that's a pretty substantial investment to put in. And I think that Manchester United were trying to cover their own rear, because if he played well, that maybe Milan would have that they would have fallen in love with the player. But you look at how steep that fee would have been. You're asking Milan to then break a club record fee for a player like that if he did play well enough, which, again, regardless, he would have competition for minutes. So there's a good chance he wouldn't even be able to rationalize such a fee. That's number one. Number two, and again, to clarify, it appears that Napoli are pushing for Højlund. I don't think necessarily Milan's entirely out of it, because there's talks of another striker too on top of Victor Boniface. So we'll see. Yeah. But back to Victor Boniface, again, to your point, Martino, I don't see what the big, hysteria is on the side of this being a risk. I mean, if the loan fee is 3 to 4 million and the wages, I don't know what the wages are for.
We don't know. We don't know.
But the option there is you're getting a 24-year-old who, look, if he produces the way that we know he's capable of producing based on the numbers we've provided, 30 million is a bargain, right? It's even cheaper than what you paid for Santiago Jimenez. If he doesn't play well, you're back on the market next year, and you're not strapped down on a 30 million obligation or 40 million obligation. So I think, again, I understand the concerns that fans have, because they want to check off every box. They want a guy that's a 15 to 20 goal scorer. They want a guy that's super healthy. They want a guy that's moderately experienced, that has proven that he could do it consistently.
Yeah,
guys, that costs more than what Milan would spend on this position. I hate to break it to you. You're basically saying you're basically telling me you want Alexander Isak. That's what you're telling me.
Exactly.
Or someone of 50, 60, 70 million. That's what you're asking for. Yeah. This is classic Milan, and I know people are going to have their opinions and feelings towards that, but this is classic Milan, classic their approach, where they're saying, Victor Boniface may be on the down. There's not a lot of teams coming in for him. He wants to play for Milan. He's going to come in hungry. Wouldn't that be something? He comes in, gives you 15 goals, and all of a sudden you have a 30 million price tag that you're like, yeah, no problem. He's 24.
AFCON in December, January, by the way. I think they're starting it a little bit earlier this go around because of the World Cup, I think. So he'll be missing time like that along with Chukwueze. Dude, I can't get upset at this, man. I just think what the market is like, prices, what guys are going quoted. Think about it, guys. Put it this way, right? Gianluca Scamacca went for 35 million off to Atalanta, who had some flashes. Have we ever seen Scamacca reach the heights of what Boniface did? No. He's not a more complete player. Retegui went for double. Like
Renzo Luca, who I like a little bit, he went for what,
also
35?
35, correct. I like Luca. I think Luca's a good target man, but as an overall forward, there's no way he's better than Boniface or more talented than him. There's like we've seen it. We'll see. There's always an adjustment to Serie A. We'll see
Yeah.
if this deal gets done. It looks like it'll likely do that unless his entourage is absolutely insane. But it really seems like it's fairly advanced
What do
negotiations at this
you,
point.
Martina, what do you make of all the reports are saying that
The other
this
positions.
no, because when I logged into work, I was like, let me just check X, see what's going on. And I saw that like the name pop around, but I wanted to see the more finer details of what was going on. And all the reports were saying this was like a lightning quick operation. I mean, when have we heard? Very rarely have we heard that surrounding Milan negotiations. I mean, obviously the
Mm,
Yashari thing was an outlier, right?
mm.
But that's refreshing too, where they have a
Well,
name that basically I think reports were saying since July they've been wanting and they've been kind of like working on the things
inquiring. Yeah.
like loosely behind the scenes. And then they're like, you know what? We're going to go get the striker. We got to get it now. The season's starting and it gets done quickly and on terms that are very favorable. What do you think of how that played out?
Well, there was two instances. Modric was done immediately. He
Yeah.
even said it himself.
I'm
Agreed.
talking like when it's
No.
involving another club.
I just
Yeah.
let me cook. I got this. So the same thing happened with Richie too.
Yeah.
They moved swiftly on it. They had stuff lined up, and that's why a lot of times it's hard to trust newspaper. And this is what I said prior to the summer when Tarde just joined. Right when you hear stuff being leaked in the papers with new management, everybody's different. We saw how news was reported under the Maldini era, what was getting leaked, what was true, what wasn't true, what reporters had an edge over other reporters, and what happens within this era, what happened during the Furlani sort of dominated period where there was no sporting director with this. What you're seeing right now with Tade is completely different. You're going one way, you're being linked to players another way. I just, they know who they want, they know what their options are. And I think that and also it was reported that Leverkusen was really a lot more okay with him leaving, which was a little interesting. Some people brought up those questions of like, oh, well, is this a good thing that like Leverkusen want to get rid of a player? To me, I kind of find that to be a fallacy. Maybe the club's just making a bad decision. Well, we don't know that.
Or
We know
Leverkusen, or I mean, the way Leverkusen have operated, I mean, that's kind of more or less in their
Xabi
game.
Alonso is gone. They hired
Yeah,
Eric
Gabi
Ten
Alonso's
Hag.
gone, Florian Wirtz is gone. I mean,
Frimpong
Frimpong's
is gone.
gone, like the
Yeah.
Xhaka's gone. Like they've lost. Like this is a new team, and some of the moves they've made, they got Emine. They sold him Adley. They sold Adley.
Adley,
That was their
yeah, to the
former
Prem.
Milan target, right?
Yes,
Um,
correct.
but then they got a couple other players. I forgot the one kid from Manchester City on loan, Claudio. I forget the last name.
Oh, Echeverria.
Echevarri or something. I'm
Yeah,
probably saying it wrong. So like
yeah.
they're kind of in a position where they're kind of like transitioning. They're trying to look like who the next era of core stars for them could be. And I know Claudio's on a loan, but you get the point. So I think that look, you can psychoanalyze this deal, but there are instances, guys, where deals work out for both clubs. Player gets his move, player gets to go to the next step, club gets a good fee, they get a good formula. In an ideal world, Boniface produces, he stays at Milan. Milan get a striker they can rely on more going forward. And Bayern Leverkusen get a nice 30 plus, whatever the package may be, and they
Mhm.
can go reinvest that. I mean, there are instances where it's not just a winner and a loser. Both teams can win. So I feel like if Victor Boniface produces, you might get that instance where both teams are winners in the end.
Yeah, I agree with that. And at the end of the day, I think there's minimal downside to this. Just a real quick thing before we get into the preview, there were a little bit of rumors regarding the fact that there was a Conrad Harder
Sporting.
of Sporting has been a name linked up. Not really great career overall, just a name loosely linked with Milan. Antonio
Young. He's a
Vitiello.
20-year-old striker.
Yeah. And again, that's why I was like, people were like, he only has X amount. It's like, dude, he's like 20. And the thing also with that is that I kind of don't love. I prefer a center back because I don't love our overall center backs. It looks like we're going to be playing a little bit more with three at the back, I'd rather just one more for solidity. I think that's the direction Milan should head in. We'll see if they do that. But again, Vitiello was saying that the Boniface arrival would not rule out another addition like that. And again, if Milan really aren't paying much of a fee with this, if it's just a dry loan with option, then hey, like, what are we talking about here, right? Like, this is a situation where if Milan aren't paying up front for a fee for their striker, then that means they have more flexibility to add elsewhere. It really doesn't look like they're going to be doing anything in terms of adding another midfielder. If anything, Musa might leave, but it's still being reported that Allegri really likes him. Atalanta had been interested in him. There's still more rumors there, 25 to 30 million euro. We'll see what ends up happening. I think Musa ends up staying. But you never know. I mean, those rumors are never going away with Musa, so I think there might be something to that. So moving on, Serie A is back, and that means
Talk about actual games.
Milan are playing really important games to try and get back into the Champions League and potentially compete for the Scudetto. We're going to get into a full season preview when the time comes, because we have to just basically, me personally, I like waiting for the transfer window 10, because you never know what sort of additions are going to be made by many other teams. We already saw Napoli lost Lukaku for 3 months, which is a huge loss in my opinion. They only have Lorenzo Luca. Giacomo Raspadori and Simeone have already left Napoli. They're really just stuck with Luca at this moment in time with all those fixtures ahead. I still think Napoli are going to be really good. I think they're the favorites for the title, but that's just kind of where I'm getting at and what I'm talking about here. So for me, the Cremonese match, we kick off the start of the season. Leao won't be in there because of his calf injury that he sustained within that. He might be available for the second match of the season. We'll see what ends up happening there. Ultimately, I'm ready for this. I think it's going to be very similar starting formation. I think Santi Jimenez will start up front with Christian Pulisic. I still think they will go with 3 at the back with Estupiñán, Salamakers opposite of each other. It could still be RLC, Ricci, and then Fofana starting in this one. Not totally sure if Modric and Yashadi will be starting. I also think the back three will stay the same, and then Magnan in goal. I don't anticipate too much of changes. Could be earlier subs. For me, listen, control the game, limit the chances of the opposition. Milan have looked really sound in transition, which speaks volumes to about what Allegri has already implemented. He'll also be on the touchline for this. I am not overly excited for Milan this season, but I have a little bit more pep in my step in terms of the expectation should be to win the title. In my opinion, I think that's always what a club like this should have. Do I think they will do it? Necessarily not. But for this match, there should be 3 points. And this is the Allegri specialty, Sant'Angelo. Beating up on these teams, rarely conceding chances, winning a game 1-0, 2-0. There's more than enough offensive firepower against Cremonese. And then also at the same time, I think Milan's defensive solidity looked really sound. I just want your thoughts real quick because we didn't get to talk about the defenders too much. The Tomori Pavlovic dynamic within this one, I kind of trust Gabbia centrally in this match. I thought Tomori looked really sound as a right center back with this. I thought he had a really nice cross in for the Leao header. Are you kind of comfortable heading into the season with the 3 at the back with those defenders over there? But again, it's not an overly difficult schedule to start this season.
So I think, and I had a conversation with one of my followers on Twitter, kind of while the game was taking place, and on highlighting what Ricci was doing, people were saying, well, they're concerned that he was going to get maybe overrun or they're not going to have enough coverage there. He's a good defensive player, but he is not a out and out defensive midfielder like a Kessie or like a Gattuso or someone like of that ilk, right? He's not that type of player. He is good defensive. His metrics support that. But the question was, are you concerned in that aspect that maybe he gets overrun and there's not enough defensive support in the midfield? That's where I think the strength in numbers in the central defense comes in, because a lot of times last year when you had the 2 central defenders and a lack of a central defensive midfielder, well, really you didn't have much defensive cover at all. So the fact that Milan has the number advantage in the midfield with the wing backs, you have guys like Estupiñán who can slide back, and now you got numbers, or he gets forward, and you have the 3 center backs where, if Ricci wants to push up a little bit more, he wants to play a little more progressive balls and kind of aid more so in the build-up going forward, you have a guy like Gabi who can push up and defend, and that gives you the extra number. So I feel good in that sense. I think a lot of what happened last year and a lot of the faults that Milan had in the defensive game were due to the lack of established formation, established idea of what we're doing back there, and ultimately having an identity. Because I think that when we looked at this game, the Bari game, right? Yes, you can maybe look at those 3 individual central defenders and think, they don't really give me so much confidence. Gabbia has his moments where he looks good, but he's clearly not, like, in my opinion, like a high-level defender, and that's okay. Like, he kind of knows his role. Tamori has shown glimpses in the past of being a really good defender when he's able to go high. And when you have someone who can stay low and stay back and defend like a Pavlovic, it can work. But I think as a group, that's the key, because they don't need to necessarily all have all their individual qualities, take shape and showcase themselves. If they can defend as a group, which again, it's a team game. People forget it's a team game. And don't be surprised if the defense looks better as a unit. Tamori might look better as a result of saying, hey, I got extra 2 bodies here next to me. Same thing with Pavlovic. All those moments where he was caught up and he was getting turned and he looked like he was a butcher and having to take guys out. Same thing with Malik Chow. When you got that extra defender there, that extra body to cover, you kind of feel like you have a little bit more, okay, like you're a little more sure of yourself. And you're looking around, like, there's numbers everywhere. So that's how I feel that Milan will go into games like this, and even against teams that have a more high-octane offense, because I think in a game like this, truthfully, I think Cremonese are going to try to attack. They're going to try to do a lot of what Parma did last year to Milan, in that, hey, let's test Milan. We got nothing to lose. It's match day 1. Like, we're not favored in this game. Let's push guys forward. I think that first 15 to 20 minutes is always so crucial in any game, but especially the home opener, because I want to see what type of pulse this team comes out with, right? No Champions League, new coach, got a lot of new signings, fresh faces. You had a pretty good market so far. You're still doing other things. Got a lot of things that are happening off the field with the Curva suit, which maybe we talk about. So that 15 to 20 minutes is going to set the tone and tell me a lot about where I think this Milan team could go, at least in the beginning part of the season, right? I don't want to think too far ahead, but if we can kind of break it up into chunks, right? I know you're a big football guy. I'm a big football guy, where you say, you know what? If we can go and get, I don't know, I think the match day 5 we play Napoli, right?
Yes.
Right. So if we go into that game and say, hey, like, we're flying, we're getting all the points we should be getting, and you go into those games, that's where you want to be. You don't want to be limping into those crucial games.
Yes. Also key to know that after the match against Lecce on the 29th, it's international break. So worst case,
correct,
they could be okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, listen, no Leao within this. I think I really liked what Pulisic and Santi showed. I'm not overly concerned energy-wise, too. I just think there's more solidity. What Fonseca did at the start of last season, where Salamakers is left back, we're starting. I forgot who it was up top.
Maybe.
It also might have been who do you call it up top? Like Okafor started at striker at the first game. It was just all over the place. Now, it's just Allegri. You know what you're gonna get. You know what the formation is. For me, I don't love the overall project. I say it time and time again. I don't like ownership. I don't trust them. Yeah. I think they're filled with loser vibes. But I also think they had more potential than what they've shown. I think they were obviously the most underperforming team within Europe relative to talent last year, and where they finished in the table. Yeah. Maybe United, Spurs, whatever. Milan were only 7 points off of the Champions League.
Yeah,
it's not a drastic number.
We highlighted all the drop points,
and they were such winnable games.
Yeah,
I think the defense is going to be such soundly and structurally improved this year. You could already see that. We didn't even get into Coney de Winter. We didn't get into whatever. Athakame is more of a question mark. I think that with this team in transition, playing once a week is so invaluable in modern day football. It truly is, guys. We saw the advantage of Napoli. We saw it in Milan Scudetto winning year when they got knocked out of the Champions League. They finished 4th in their group with Porto, Atletico Madrid, and Liverpool. To me, the invaluableness of having someone like Allegri in there, I think loosely that there is a window, if a lot of stuff breaks their way, which is possible with once a week, that they could challenge for something. And that's what they should be aiming for. I just think there's champions within the squad, game to game. They have game-breaking players. And truthfully speaking, this midfield revamp is fantastic. It is so much better than last year. And everyone loves to highlight they lost midfielder of the year. Reinders is gone. The midfield sucked with him. He was a great individual player, but as a whole, there was no balance. He was part of the problem defensively. It's not like he actually did anything to improve the side in that aspect. What he did was great with advancing the ball, really good passer. When Reinders was in possession, closer to goal, hard to find a better midfielder than him. However, when I'm speaking about this kind of stuff, there's more balance within the squad. I'm not as worried about the fullbacks. I mean, the right side, yeah, sure. Wing back wise, Salamakers I like better than any of our fullbacks last year at right back. Salamakers at right wing back, I have more faith in than any other player that we have. Estupinian is a far more balanced player than Teo, even though Teo is a superior offensive player, which some people
on his day, on
his day,
yeah.
which Teo
he didn't have his day much last year.
As much as I love him, he's a Milan legend.
Yeah.
In my eyes, Estupinian had a really solid performance, man, and I think with that balance that Milan have and how deadly they could truly be on the counter, especially if Victor Boniface gets over the line, I think Milan should clean up. I think they get a clean sheet in this, and I expect a victory of 1-2-0. And guys like Modric off the bench, Yashadi off the bench, and by the way, some of the comments on Yashadi, guys, he didn't have a preseason. He didn't play. Gonna look rusty.
Yeah.
That's all I'll say with him. I'm not gonna take too much away from that. Modric is Modric.
Yeah. I mean,
one of the greatest of all.
He stepped on the pitch in the Bari game and looked like it was kind of like just an exhibition for him.
He is an anomaly.
He sees things like a little bit quicker, and he sees pockets of space and that extra ball that maybe someone else doesn't see. Like that one pass that he had that he squared into the box and like no, Okafor wasn't there. He probably was telling him after the game, like, no, you have to be here, and here's why. You have to anticipate that. Like he's anticipating things that maybe players at Real Madrid were anticipating, so he knew where the player was to be. And that's going to take time. Same thing with Yashari. There was a couple things I saw with Yashari, like, okay, he didn't do this or he didn't do that. But to your point, I think that there are games like this, I feel that Milan are going to be, I'm not saying in a luxurious position because I'm not saying this is a team that's a juggernaut top to bottom. There's still flaws and holes in this team.
Absolutely, yeah.
But I think that even the games that Milan won last year and the manner in which they did, they still didn't feel safe. Like even the 2-0s are like, that could have went the other way. We could have drawn that game.
They always conceded first too.
Then there's games against like Bari, like Cremonese, hopefully on the weekend, where I think that to your point, your prediction, right? Like 1-2-0, people might say, oh, you're supposed to throttle these teams. It's a long season too. How many times did we see last year with Conte where you're like, oh, 1-0? How did they not beat, lowly Monza by much more? And it's like, guys, like it doesn't have to be 100% run the score up on. You can score a goal, 2 goals, and it's like, we're in cruise control. Put the emergency brake on and just not risk anything.
It's the one sport. It's one of the few sports where you could really dominate something without actually the score line reflecting that.
Correct.
You could be absolutely dominant in a one.
Will I complain? Will I complain at a 4-0 where Pulisic scores and all their new guys look great? No. But I think, again, like, what prime example what we saw on the weekend. Not saying they cruised. They were actually dominated, in my opinion. Pet's not going to like it. Manchester United looked better than Arsenal. Arsenal looked pretty bad. Some new signings. Gyökeres didn't do anything. He looked like Piontek without the mask, right? That tweet went viral for me. So I had to mention it. But that's my point. Like, and the same thing when the Scudetto year, guys, that Milan won. They had some ugly wins. Not every game was a convincing game that we're going to go on here in the match review and say, like, damn, Milan played great, 3-0. Sometimes match day 1, you set the expectation. If we play defensively sound, we look good. Maybe we might waste some chances. We don't have Rafa. Santiago Menezes just came back a couple weeks ago. Hopefully he starts kicking on. If we win the game 2-0 and we get wins, guys, that we maybe otherwise didn't get last year, you're going to find it very difficult to complain and find complaints from us.
Yeah, no. To me, I'm a results guy. Same thing why I wanted Allegri back in the spring prior to him even being linked with Milan. Just get me results, man. Yeah. It's about the wins. If you watch Juventus during that decade in the 2010s, man, dude, like score lines be damned. They didn't blow teams out. It's about not conceding. It's just as important. And like the 3-3 Cagliari game that we saw last year, that's not gonna. I don't think that's gonna happen this go around. Will I be more confident if we had better talent against like the top sides? Absolutely. But like sides like this, I don't think you're going to see what you've seen the past like kind of 2 seasons with Pioli. Pioli played good offensive flowing football in his last year, right? Like Milan were scoring a lot of goals. They were pretty prolific when they finished second. They just couldn't play defense. They haven't been a good defensive side since they won the Scudetto. I think that changes this year. I think they're going to be much improved in that regard. And there's multiple reasons as to why. I'm very excited for our midfield overall future of the project. Sure, guys, I'm not overly thrilled. So I'm just here to preface that before people want to jump down my throat and think I'm saying something that I'm not. What I'm saying is this year, what Milan have talent on paper playing once a week, the aim should be the title. And you should settle for nothing else because this means something. Okay? So those guys who go out there every day, and there's plenty of talent, by the way, in to win this, considering where some teams are a little bit in flux in Serie A, all over the place, in my opinion. Talent going out the door in Bologna. We'll see how they handle it. Juric, Atalanta. I think there's a decline there. I think Roma improve. I think that's one of the main ones. Tudor, Juve. Who knows what's going on there? They're having a crazy market. Douglas Luiz gone. Locatelli also potentially gone. Inter with Kivu. I think Kivu is a huge question mark. How do Inter compete on all fronts once again with a shortened summer? There's a lot of question marks with a lot of teams.
Yeah.
Napoli, I think, are the favorites. I think Conte, it's hard to look past him. He struggles in Europe when it's really multiple competitions. It's not really the league where he suffers much. There are key injuries. I just think right now where we're going, 2-0 victory for Milan against Cremonese. Sant'Angelo, your first prediction of the year. Let me get this out of the way. Again, guys, also give us your goal scores and comments and predictions below.
I'm going to go 2-0. I'm going to say this team looks a little bit more organized defensively and kind of builds off what we saw in the Bari game. Heading into this, I think that, again, we're still going to show some faults. Maybe we're not going to convert as many chances similar to with the Bari game where we could have probably had 7-8 goals, right? But the important thing is getting the result, and I think Milan will get the result. And it also is great to see that if they're able to achieve that, knowing that, hey, we don't have to sort of expedite Rafa's return, right? We have one competition. Like, if we play really well without him and we produce, and guys like Santi, guys like Pulisic, whoever is asked to carry the offensive workload, get us the job done in the offensive phase. We play Lecce on Friday, guys. Maybe we say, hey, you know what? Let's rest them a little bit. We got guys, we're cooking, we're doing well. Got that Camarda game, right?
Which I just want to bring up real quick. Yeah.
So yeah, I'm gonna go 2-0. I feel good about the start of the season. Again, I can't speak too much on preseason. I can't say and put too much stock into the Bari victory on the weekend. But I can only go based on just kind of gut feeling sometimes and what the group in terms of potential gives me. And I think that with the coach gives me some confidence. So I'm going to go 2-0.
Yeah. So those are the predictions right there. Let's go into the final comment here. I got to be honest with you. This assist by Camarda was fantastic. We can't show it because of copyright issues, but the hold up, like, dude, this kid, I don't care. This potential is scary. It's terrifying what he is. Every single time passes and you see him again, the improvement is glaringly obvious. Like the calmness of a 17-year-old surrounded by 3 defenders. I don't give a shit what team it was. He's 17 against grown men. And his Lecce, his teammates aren't insane. His best player, his best teammate's gone. He just got sold. This guy is laying off a pass, and it's so calmly assisted. And he gets his team into the next round, who faces Milan, by the way. And they're also going to be facing Milan on the second match day. To me, I think this is... I don't like using the word. I really don't. I think it's tossed around loosely with a lot of people. This is a special player. This is a special talent. Honestly, I think this ceiling is through the roof. It is soaring. He is just such a magnificent type of talent. I think he's going to thrive at Lecce. The incentives are there for him to thrive. And for Lecce, for that, 100K a goal to Lecce in Serie A, 75K every time he makes an appearance. Milan has that buyback. I think this is going to be a pretty decent spot. It looks like I was wrong in terms of like, a spot of development. I was a little skeptical of it, but Di Francesco in there, I think he has a little bit of a respectable track record, especially compared to Gianpaolo, who was just there. So for me, I think we're already seeing signs of it. He's flourishing in all the preseason games. Someone commented like, "Oh, no doubt he's going to score on us." Good. Hope he does. 5-1. But yeah, any quick comment on him before I really just want a quick comment on Curva, by the way?
Sure. So, yeah, I mean, Camarda, this is what you want to see. This was by design, right? This is what you wanted when you loaned him out to Lecce, right? At the time, what was deemed a unpopular decision to make, right? Because you're looking at everyone says loan with option. Wait, we're letting him go. We're not paying him the trust and faith to produce. We don't have guys that could score on our team. Why don't we just keep him, right? The way that structure of the deal is built out is it incentivizes Lecce to play him. Because if he scores and he produces like they need him to now that Kristovic has gone to Atalanta for a pretty substantial fee, granted, they might get somebody else in there, but Camarda's going to play a good amount of top-flight football for Lecce. And they're a team that's going to need goals. They're a team that is probably going to be flirting based on their squad talent with the relegation drop. So they're going to need guys to score goals. So he's going to play, which, again, is exactly what Milan fans wanted to see. Right? They wanted to see him stay where you can monitor him on a more regular basis, not go to some wacky league outside of Italy. Staying in Serie A, you're going to play him. He's going to play against competition that you expect him to be able to play against for you in the near future. And if he scores, it works to their benefit. It also validates what our plan is for him. Because if he goes to Lecce and he gets 7-8 goals, 1 or 2 assists, and they pick up the option, Milan can bring him right back. They can work at the more favorable terms. Let's say Lecce stays up. They could say, hey, you know what? We got Boniface, we got Santi. We'll let you keep him for another year.
If Milan make it back into Europe, then he's staying.
I agree, but then there's the other side of it where is this a guy that you want as a third striker on your team?
I mean, it depends on the stats.
How much is he going to play?
I think
hypothetically, Martino, do well at Lecce. You bring him back only for him to now sit more predominantly on the bench.
I don't think it's sitting more predominantly. I think it's just less. I think it's less minutes with golden opportunities as you ease in and build up that leg strength and physicality. Because, I am not personally in favor of loving what Barcelona is doing as a whole with Lamine Yamal in terms of minutes played and how much they're playing him. I don't think they need to play him every single week because I think you want Yamal to be there for 15, 20 years, right? You don't want him to be burnt out like a Rooney. And like, what is the downside? If you mean Lamine Yamal's career ended today, his career is better than a lot of players throughout history, right? Just because of what he's done. I just think the way that they're trying to ease him in, I think it'll bode well for him. So I'm happy with that. Just a real quick thing with the Curva Sud. Ultras are ultras, right? I'm not defending who they are, what they do outside of the stadium and kind of their actions, right? Because we know with Lucci, some of those other guys, we're really not going to get into it. That's different. However, when you're in that stadium, and I mentioned this when I went to Milan Udinese, which really perfectly encapsulated what they are. It was a library for the majority of the time, right? There's protests. There's been kind of back and forth with ownership. And then we saw game over and how they protested at the final match day at San Siro last year against Monza. We know all of that. This club and what they are atmosphere-wise, it's not the same. And I don't think that you could take that away. And whatever the protesting is, I know there was over 70,000 supporters. When they start chanting and cheering and singing, it is impossible, in my opinion, if you like this club, to not have the hairs on your skin stand up on your entire body because of what they do. I think getting rid of Curva Sud is honestly one of the dumbest things, one of the most tone-deaf things that we've seen. They are integral to what this support group is as a fan base. Like, they are, without a doubt, the most important thing. when it comes to match days and supporting the team. What they're able to do is incredible in terms of motivation and just being intimidating at the same time, even for the opposition. Milan have to sort this out. I think if there's a huge issue that I have heading into this season outside of just the overall project, it's this. And Milan have to fix it and their relationship with Curva soon. And I hope they do that as soon as possible. So what are your comments?
Yeah, not to go too much into it, I think you actually did a great job of kind of expressing a lot of the thoughts that I had. But yeah, I think it's pretty evident, pretty clear, obviously how things have fractured over the past couple of years, right? Not just the fans here, like, in the United States, Canada, outside of Milan, right? Where it's different, right? The guys and girls that go to the games consistently, the ultras that show up, they do the pre-match prep and the post-match and everything during the game, right? To create that atmosphere that we love so much, and that I always try and sort of like convey it to like friends, family, of how special and unique it is to go to San Siro and hear the chants, and how much the supporters influence and impact the sport we love, right? So things this relationship or fractured relationship has to be mended somehow, because this is not just a Milan thing. Without supporter culture, without your loyal, diehard supporters that show up every match day to create this atmosphere, 70,000 people. To your tweet last weekend, right? During Ferragosto, where like typically people are away, end of summer, people are doing a lot of other things. Even during the year, people could be spending their hard-earned money and time doing other things, especially when your team is not competing. And especially with the price of match day tickets and merch and everything not going lower, right? This needs to be fixed. However it comes about, meeting of the minds, both sides need to come to some sort of agreement, some sort of common understanding, and mend that relationship. Because if Milan are going to go anywhere, it's not just going to be the coach. It's not going to be the players. They need supporters. They need the people on podcasts. They need people on social media backing them. They need the people in the stands cheering, screaming their lungs out. That's what they need on match days, creating that atmosphere. Because for all the issues that this club has faced, the one thing, Martina, that we always are steadfast, consistent on in giving praise for is the community, the supporters. Every single match day, waking up early, traveling. Sometimes people going from Sydney, Australia, and Asia just to go and watch this club play.
Yeah.
Something has to be fixed here. This cannot be a lingering issue, because this is too important of a season for Milan, and they need to start getting everything together on the pitch and off it.
Yeah. We'll see what ends up happening there. Well said. All right, guys, as you know, subscribe to us here at That Milan Podcast, at That Milan Pod. Again, all of our social media is That Milan Podcast on Twitter, That Milan Podcast on TikTok, and then Instagram as well. We greatly appreciate all the support that you guys have been giving us. Obviously, Sant'Angelo's information has been across here at the bottom on the ticker. Again, as well, Matt_Santa22 on Instagram, correct?
Yes. Trying to get to 100 followers. Hopefully, you can grow that quickly. But again, big shout out to those who have followed me. Big shout out to all of my followers on X. Those have aided in such great growth throughout the summer for Martino and I with this podcast, and on an individual level as well. As always, thank you guys. Hopefully you got to have a nice big win this weekend. It's actually my birthday on Friday, so it would be great if Milan actually can win on the weekend, and we can start the season right with a victory. So hopefully we can all share that together.
Yes. Happy birthday, Sant'Angelo. And again, you could also follow me at Martino Pucci everywhere at Martino_Pucci on Instagram. We appreciate all your support. We're heading into another season. This is basically season 2 of podcasts on a weekly basis. We appreciate all your support. We're going to have more guests. We're going to have more live streams. So we greatly appreciate everybody's support through all of this. And as always, Forza Milan, take care.